Good evening. I will call this Township Council agenda meeting of June 14th, 2022 to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing a notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on December 22nd, 2021, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record on December 28th, 2021, and the Newark Star Ledger on December 27th, 2021. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision, Public Access Channel 21 at 11 a.m. on Sundays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Would you all join me in a flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Karifi.
Here.
Ms. Grignani.
Here.
Mr. Musella.
Here.
Mr. Neglia.
Here.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor Jamie Barbario, Business Administrator Fred Carr, Township Attorney Michael Lavery, Township Clerk Colette Madden, Council President. We have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, June 21st, 2022 at 7 p.m., our regular meeting, and July 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m., an agenda meeting. Presentation and reports. Mayor?
Yes, on June 21st, we will have the budget ready for presentation for introduction. I spoke to the council president this morning with regards to the budget. I've had a conversation with our CFO and the auditor, and they're confident that the budget will be ready for introduction on January 21st.
Thank you. As long as our auditor certifies the budget, it'll remain on the 21st. Township Council, anything?
Yes, Council President, just two ordinances. Council President. Yes. Oh, Council. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's all right, I didn't get to you yet.
It's CIL, not SEL, sorry.
That's all right.
I know you're so excited to share the news. Yes, Council President, with your permission, I'd like to present a certificate of appreciation to Chan Palace.
Okay.
So before I don't need this. Before I read this certificate of
You
appreciation.
do need it because it has to be recorded.
For the record.
Oh, okay. In that case, I won't speak so loud. I first and foremost want to thank Manon. He is the owner of Chan Palace, and the reason why we're giving a certificate of appreciation is in light of a conference, a small business conference that we had at his restaurant that was open to small businesses. We had an event there that was open to small businesses so they could apply for grants, and he understands as a small business owner what they've been going through. He held that event free of charge, and we really appreciated that because we wanted to get a lot of the small businesses in town the help they needed. So I'm going to read this certificate of appreciation. It's from the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. Certificate of appreciation presented to Manon Saxena of Chan Palace in recognition for your service and hospitality to the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, dated this 14th of June 22nd. So with your permission, I would love the council and mayor, of course, to come in for a picture with us.
Please. Congratulations.
He didn't have the camera pointed.
Okay, I have one more item under Township Council from myself. I would like to make a recommendation to the mayor and council that we have a street dedication for Lee Keimel. As you all know, Lee was a longtime employee of the town, was also involved with hazmat and also the R&R building for many, many, many years. And I think it would be appropriate for us to name a street. Now, I know we did name that side street for Bob Deckenbach many years ago. I don't know if it's appropriate to have two dedications on the same street, but you give it some thought and see what would be appropriate.
I'll speak to the engineer, we can figure something out for that area.
Good. Thank you. Township Attorney.
I apologize again, Council President. So a little excited because I finally had a report. So, in any event, there's two ordinances on the agenda. Number 2, under introduction, that is authorizing the conveyance of Block 765, Lot 66 and 81.1 to wildlife preserves. Just for council's edification, that was a result of a settlement from a few years back. And what had happened was apparently the settlement agreement had required a bargain and sale deed to wildlife preserves. And the old ordinance said that it was a quitclaim deed. So the only thing this is the exact same ordinance that was passed at least over a year ago, and then we're just changing quitclaim to bargain and sale in conformance with the settlement.
I object to that. That means they can sell the property that we give them. Quick sale.
Well, no. Bargain and sale deed is a better deal. Quitclaim just says whatever interest we have, you get. So bargain and sale, either way, they have title to the property. And again, I wasn't the attorney on the settlement. This was just,
I know you were
Yeah.
not. I thought the way when we dedicated that, my impression was that they could not sell it or develop it.
yeah, my understanding, that is still the restriction on there. This is just effectuating the transfer because it hadn't been done yet.
I believe.
Can we double check? I'm concerned about that.
Sure.
I want to make sure they do not have the ability to sell property that we give them.
I will be happy to double check that.
Council President, if you remember, this land is landlocked, and it's also encumbered by green acres as wetlands. So even if they tried to sell it.
It's landlocked by
Wetlands, by
wildlife preserves.
And the land is encumbered by green acres, and by the wetlands restrictions.
My point is, it's landlocked by wildlife preserves, so
Yes, sir.
they can grant access to it themselves,
Yes, sir, across their own land.
across their own land. So it's not really landlocked to them.
Yes, sir.
That's my
They can't,
concern.
but they won't be able, but that, the attorney can check that, but, they should not be able to sell it, but we can still introduce it in bulk at the last.
All right,
to its final reading.
we'll introduce it tonight, but would you double check that?
Absolutely.
It would go against my grain to give wildlife preserve.
That's you.
You know, years ago, wildlife preserves,
Yeah, I think so.
had the township, subdivide some of their property, on the pretext that they wanted to increase the value of their holdings for future, grants. That was the reason they did that, but those subdivisions, they could sell them off and we couldn't do anything about it now that we subdivided it. And I just don't want, they've had the property for 60 years, tax-free all this time, and I don't want them to make money on property they've been holding all this time. For good reasons, let the good reasons continue, in my opinion.
I believe they also said that they were going to be doing an educational building.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. we gave them permission to put an observation tower
Right.
on their property, for use by the public at some point in time, and also build a shed to store their vehicles that travel over the property. We allowed that. Okay.
Okay, Council, and then the second thing I wanted to comment on was you have ordinance 2216, stormwater management controls. This is an ordinance that I got from the Highlands. There were some concerns about the land use reviews, especially with people who had water allocations that were going to expire in the next year, and because the Highlands process delays that, Mary Jude Haddock-Weiler from the Highlands suggested that we change, and they did the change in the ordinance, prime groundwater designation to municipally important groundwater designation in certain areas, and then it said they're still going to be required to meet or exceed the average recharge by volume for the sub-watershed, but at least it'll speed the process. So this is the same ordinance that was adopted previously. Matter of fact, it's 2021. It just changes that designation.
We're not voting on that tonight, are we?
No, but I just wanted to explain that because that was...
Okay, thank you. That's the backup we need. Okay, business administrator.
Yes, Council President, but my presentation, if you will, is, I've invited Dan Levin, from the Affordable Housing Group to answer council questions. It's a quick presentation, about the accessory housing program, or accessory apartment program, that I've requested that the township adapt, which provides, another venue for affordable housing, and just for the sake of an argument, it was also mandated by the judge in our court order, to put our agreement, and that, as I stated in my email,
That's part of our COA agreement?
yes, sir. It's specifically delineated in the agreement
Okay,
to institute this. And, as I explained, I only had two COA rules: don't aggravate the judge, and the second one is don't aggravate the judge. They take it personal.
okay.
Thanks, Dan, for coming up from...
Not a problem. Thank you. Good evening, Council President, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Dan Levin. I'm a senior planner at CGP&H. We are the township's affordable housing administrative agent. And as Fred mentioned just before, I'm here to talk and answer any questions about the accessory apartment program. I handed out a one-page sort of informational sheet. This sort of highlights the broad functioning of the program, and I'll sort of go through that right now. So as per the settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing that was signed on March 19th, 2019, the township agreed to provide 10 accessory apartments towards its obligation for its third round affordable housing units. The program allows for 5 moderate income and 5 low income units, and no more than that. The ordinance that was passed caps the number of affordable accessory apartment units at 10. 5 of them have to be low income units. 5 of them can be moderate income units, but there can be more than 5. All 10 of them could be low income. And there is a subsidy that goes along with those units of $55,000 for homeowners in the township to create a low-income unit, $40,000 for a moderate income unit. Owners creating units will need to sign a 30-year deed restriction to create those units, but the township gets twice the number of credits. So normally, a accessory apartment only requires a 10-year deed restriction. As per the settlement agreement, the residents need to sign a 30-year deed restriction, but instead of getting 10 credits for 10 units, you'll get 20 credits for 10 units if all of them are completed within the time period through 2025. These are conditional uses, or accessory apartments are conditional uses within the R1 zone only. They're not permitted anywhere else as a conditional use anywhere else within the township. They cannot be part of a primary building as part of the ordinance, so these are outbuildings. So somebody who has a large garage or a shed or something else in their yard can convert one of these outbuildings into an accessory apartment. Our responsibility as the administrative agent is to handle the applications for the subsidy, approve the initial application for the subsidy, but everything else runs through the township. Site plan application, site plan review, building permits, inspections, all of that is handled by the township. We don't handle any of that. And then we will be responsible for making sure that the units that are created are creditworthy. We handle the affirmative marketing of these units. We create the wait list. We income qualify the applicants. And without our approval, homeowners that have these accessory apartment units can't just rent these units out to anyone. They have to be income qualified households in order to make sure that they're creditworthy.
Through you.
Yes, through us.
Do you also continue to evaluate their income level, if they still qualify? What's their income level, after they're in?
No, the Universal Housing Affordability Controls, UHAC, do not require ongoing review of individual households' income levels. If somebody moves into a unit and they hit the lottery, good for them. That's kind of also the point of affordable housing in some regards, to help people build generational wealth over time. But because it's not a requirement of the state, we don't actively review people's income limits after they're placed.
If they pass away, can relatives of theirs take their place?
That is a very good question. I know for homeownership units, a Class A beneficiary can move into the unit. I'm not quite sure about rentals. And these are rental units. So I'm not entirely sure if somebody who wasn't living previously in the unit as related could move in. But I do know for homeownership units, they could.
Can you double check that and find out?
Sure.
Mr. Levin, I have a question. What would be the recourse for a homeowner to evict somebody if they're not following the agreements of their lease or contract?
As long as the landlord follows all applicable New Jersey landlord-tenant laws, they're totally fine to evict a tenant. So if somebody isn't paying their rent for a period of time, and then they file the appropriate measures, as long as they don't run afoul of the law, we have no issues.
I have a question. You happened to mention a shed or a
Yes.
garage. Who is going to incur the cost of the sewage line and the water lines into that facility?
That's what the subsidy is for. So the homeowner is entirely responsible for paying for all necessary improvements to their property. So if they want to build a unit and it requires additional infrastructure, they will have to front the cost. The subsidy is awarded after deed restriction, after the first income qualified household moves in. It's not an upfront payment. So after they have completed all of their work, if they need to take out a construction loan or if they happen to have cash, that's entirely up to them. And then they are given the subsidy after the fact.
Okay, to follow up on Councilman Macella's question, we read in the newspapers in regard to homeowners trying to evict renters who have not paid their rent in quite a few years. And it takes quite a long period of time before they can evict, if they can evict. So this is going to be on the homeowner's responsibility. I don't know whether, I know this is something that had to be done, but I don't know as a homeowner, if I have a shed or a garage and I want to make it into an apartment, that I want to accept that responsibility.
Then don't do it.
Yeah, then I'm not going to do
Right.
it. But then how does that affect, thank you, but then how does that affect the township if we don't meet our obligation?
That is an excellent question. This program is entirely voluntary. No one can be forced to create an accessory apartment unit. So all that we can do as the administrative agent and the township can do is advertise the program and provide a generous subsidy, which it is doing, to encourage people to participate in the program. If they don't, then come the next round. We don't know what the rules are going to be. We don't know if there's going to be a next round, but we're all kind of expecting that there will be. More than likely, the number of units will just be carried over. So the 10 units that don't get completed this round would need to be completed in the subsequent round. That's a possibility. It's a likely possibility, but a possibility. Does that mean that the township would need to create 10 more accessory apartments post-2025? Not necessarily. The entire process may still be with the courts. It may not. Accessory apartments may be a permitted compliance mechanism in the next round. They also may not be. I know that's not a great answer, but the truth is we just don't know what will happen. But it's important to make a good faith effort to comply with the settlement agreement, and by starting the program and advertising the program and encouraging people to apply, that I think would qualify as, a reasonable effort to try and get people to join.
Do you know if other towns are complying with the program in other towns also?
Are other towns
Are
running
other
accessory
towns,
apartments?
yes, complying with it?
There are other towns running accessory apartment programs. I couldn't say to what level of take-up there is. You raise a good point. It's a tough program. A lot of people who want accessory apartments, they want to put their mom in, or their grandparent, or a family relative, and that's not permitted. As an affordable housing unit, you can't preference family members. You can't even have a municipal preference. It's open to the entire region. The best that a township can do is to have a regional preference, and so anyone within, this is Region 2, so I think it's a 4-county region, can get preference to move into one of these units. And more often than not, somebody who lives on the far side of one region is not going to want to live on the other side of a region. So there's some jostling that might happen there just in terms of people's preferences. But that is a challenge in getting people to take up these units.
I'm assuming that we're going to subsidize this with our trust fund, Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Correct. Every dollar that is being spent on this program, or would be spent on this program, comes out of the trust fund. This is not taxpayer money. It's really important to remember that.
That's what I wanted to bring out.
Yes, this is all development fee revenue through the township's development fee ordinance. So this is development fees generated through residential and non-residential development. So there should not be. The current trust fund balance, when I last checked from December, is almost $6 million, so more than likely it's over $6 million right about now. So there is more than enough money currently in the trust fund to subsidize this program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have two questions for you. You had mentioned before that if somebody won the jackpot, they could still continue to live there. So that would suggest to me that assets does not necessarily equate income. So how would you define an individual's income? Other words, what is in income and what is not income?
So if I may, I believe that the conversation is, once his income is verified and he's allowed to move in the deed, so he's moved in, Councilman, and then next day, after he signed the papers for 30 years, he wins the lottery, the state statute, we're not talking about what we want to do, what he wants to do, but the law, the core regulations, there is no income verification. Doesn't matter after that. It's not like Medicare moving into a nursing home or an asset qualified. It's, you qualified it the day, you move in, you win the lottery the next day, you probably won't live there.
Yeah, I don't think somebody
I
that
don't
wins
think
the
you live there.
lottery
I
would
wouldn't.
be living in a garage.
You're in the state of the garage, you live in a garage with no lottery rings? Probably not.
And it is important to note that it's not just, somebody throws down a mattress in a garage, turns on a light, and calls it an accessory apartment. These have to be fully functional, self-contained dwelling units. They have to have a separate bedroom and living space. You have to have a separate bathroom. The ordinance requires a separate off-street car parking spot. So it's not like someone just lives in a shed and they get, a big subsidy. They have to put a substantial amount of money. It has to be habitable living space.
And my second question is, if all the candidates are equal, how do you decide who gets that unit? Is it given based off of local preference, a veteran, fixed social?
It's a lottery. So the way when a unit is created, I'll answer your other question in terms of income. So the regulations, you'd think they would, but they don't clearly define what income is. It's left up to the judgment of the administrative agent. So some people, in terms of doing an income qualification, will look at a tax return. They'll look at bank statements. They'll look at pay stubs and all sorts of other things that could be considered as income. Assets are a consideration as well. So there's an income and asset ratio. I personally don't do income qualification, income certification. That's another sort of group in our company. So I could certainly get back to you on exactly, what that ratio is and how they determine that. But once a unit is created, it gets advertised, and then everyone who wants to get in the unit will join the waiting list. The waiting list is then randomized, so there's a lottery that's held. And so then each individual household that signs up is given a number, and then through the lottery, it's next up. So there is no preference that's not permitted under the rules. You have to randomize, you have to have a random selection, and it goes by household.
I have a question. It's not really a question. To answer Council Vice President. I was in Tewksbury. I was the administrator. I was the Affordable Housing Administrator, and your company was a company that we used, and I have to say, did an excellent job. It was actually went well, went perfect. But what we had there was different than seems here in Parsippany. The township of Tewksbury owned the property. So they created the accessory apartments, but they had to maintain everything. They had to follow all the basic guidelines, and they had the leases. Now, I'm sure you're gonna have leases with each individual, and those leases, and to answer Councilman Masella's question, they have to follow that lease. And the lease has several things in there, from no dogs, whatever, and no smoking, all that kind of stuff. And if you don't follow that, then the township has the ability to evict. But, in the case of COVID, I think they lifted that ban right now. But I worked with Heather over there with regards to that. And you guys did an excellent job. I can't, when I became the mayor and I saw that you were going to be our Affordable Housing Administrator, I felt very comfortable.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'll definitely tell Heather.
thank you, Dan.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Carr?
No, sir.
Okay. Township Clerk,
No report at this time, Council President. Thank you.
Township Officers and Committees, any reports? None at this time. No correspondence? Okay. Bids taken. 5/12/22, supply of manic polymer for the wastewater treatment plant. 5/19/22, well development services, wells 3, 10, 4, and 4A, and pumping system replacements for wells 3, 10, 4, and 4A. 5/20/22, Vale water tank painting and rehabilitation. 5/25/22, one new Roland RTW 540 Traffic Works 54-inch traffic sign print cut with CWT 1428 work table and flatbed applicator for Parks and Forestry Department. Also 5/25/22, fabrication and installation of new wood shutters at the Smith Baldwin House. 5/26/22, 2022 road resurfacing, curb and sidewalk program. A list would be available to the council if we requested that.
Yes, sir.
6/2/22, rental of golf carts. And item B, bids to be taken. 6/23/22, ambulance billing and collection services for EMS. And item C, quotations and proposals and qualifications. 6/1/22, fireworks display services. Now I will entertain a motion to open this meeting to the public.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is open to the public on any matter. You'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Council President, Council, and Mayor Barbario. I was going to write a letter to the council. I'm not really sure how to proceed because I have some questions about environmental resource inventory. So I jotted down some notes and I'm going to read them, and then, because it's easier for me that way. So, as a former member of the Planning Board and a current member of the Parsippany Green Team, I'm pleased to share that the Highlands Council has completed the beta testing on the interactive maps and geographic system mapping, like a GIS data, and this information is instrumental in creating an ERI, which is an environmental resource inventory. And as you know, I know you know, an ERI provides a baseline, a compilation of tables, maps, and other visual information about the natural resources and characteristics and environmentally significant features of an area, and documentation for measuring and evaluating resource protection issues. Identifying these resources, and Parsippany has many wonderful resources, such a big town, is the first step in ensuring smart development and the protection of public health and welfare. It is a tool for governing bodies such as the Planning Board, the Board of Adjustment, and the Open Space Committee, as is the land use plan element that's in the master plan. And many towns have them. It has been historically expensive and time-consuming to produce. The availability of these Highlands maps data is good news for the following reasons. One, it allows the township to act on one of the goals as per the recently adopted master plan, which recommends in section 3.4, this section of environmental conservation and sustainability, to produce an ERI. Two, the ERI document is a priority item under the Sustainable Jersey certification, and the township can satisfy that action as we move forward towards the silver certification. And three, as Parsippany is now in Highlands Plan Conformance, the township can take advantage of plan conformance grants to produce the ERI. What once would have been a burden to the municipality in the way of cost, consultants, municipal employee time, the township can access grant dollars and Highlands Council expertise to produce the document using these digital records. The Highlands Council is on board to assist in any way they can. So I am here to ask, what would be the procedure to ask this township to initiate such an undertaking of this document? Would it be the planning
The
board?
first procedure would be to give a copy of that to our township clerk, let him make copies to give to the administration, the mayor, and the council, and give us all a chance to look at it.
Okay.
And then we will discuss it further from that point.
Okay. So I can give you this, or I can email you a nicer
Yeah, you can just
copy.
email me. Yeah, just email me.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Council Member, President.
Speak into the microphone, please. It's recorded.
Thank you very much, okay. Honorable Council President, Council people, Mayor, DA, and everybody. My name is Shankalal Patel. I am in the city since 42 years ago. I came in the city, and 37 years ago I bought my house on 68 Ludlow Road. I was paying my tax bill, usually 4 quarters in a year and 4 quarters water and sewer bill, online bill paying, okay. I received the second quarter bill. As soon as I receive the bill, I request to my bank, pay this bill on April 14th, second quarter bill. 16 plus 10 days, 26 days earlier. Then my bank sent the check to city on 18th of April. So 12 plus 10, 22 days earlier. Somehow check was misplaced. City did not receive the check or something like that. So city did not credit to my account. So city sent me the friendly notice, Mr. Patel, you did not pay the bills, so pay $9.91 interest charge along with this tax bill. But my question to the council and everybody, I request my bill, and I'm paying on online bill pay, okay, and request my bank. And if you want to see the statement, I give you a statement over here. You can verify.
Mr. Patel,
If you want to
has-
verify, you can verify last bill, first quarter bill, last year 2021 bill also paid online, okay? Somehow the check was misplaced. City did not receive the check and my bank received the check again back to it. So city sent me the letter, friendly notice, they paid $9.91 interest charge. So I came over here to see the clerk over there and I saw the supervisor. Supervisor was so loud. Oh, this is a state law. This is this thing, that thing. If I gave a $9.91 and I lose my job, I said, don't worry about it, don't lose your job. Then I say, let me see, BA, the second man of the city. First man the mayor and second man the city. I request him, this is the position like that, okay? You can help me on this one. You say, I can help you. I produce this in the council. That's why I came over here. If city gave the money, $9.91, then okay, I already paid my bill anyway. That's my question right now, okay?
has the bank sent another check so that the taxes are paid?
I did pay, cash paid, I won the same day on 20th.
So the taxes are paid, you're here because you're challenging the $9 charge?
91 cent, right.
Okay.
If possible, council can approve, otherwise.
So,
Mr. Carr?
So for the council, yes, I have spoken with Mr. Patel. He's very nice. He showed me all that. I believe I made copies of that, gave it to Colette, explained to the council, to Mr. Patel, that only by council action can this happen. The refund, standard in water sewer tax in the township of every town in the state of New Jersey. The property owner, to be rude, as I told Mr. Patel, not to be rude, but to be frank, property owner is responsible for the prompt payment of bills, period, end stop. Now, Mr. Patel, like many people, employs a third-party bill payer, the bank. The bank pays the bill, they cycle those bills to a third-party billing, they sent the check did not arrive on time, interest payment. So after we spoke, Mr. Patel did go down to tax, paid his bill right on the time to stop the clock and the interest payments, if you will. He's objecting to the fact that the third-party biller got the check to us late and that we charged him an interest in accordance with the law.
Okay. Mayor, anything to add?
All right.
Well, it seems to me, Mr. Patel, you should be going back to the bank that didn't get the check here in time.
I went to the bank.
Let them reimburse you.
I went to the bank and bank deposited they received the check back somehow from the mail and they deposited my account. And I came over to see BA at that time. On the same day, I paid my money here. On 20th May, I pay everything.
Yeah, he was charged the $9.91.
How much is it?
Did he say the check?
So the check actually was returned to you, to the bank?
No, check was misplaced somewhere. City did not receive or city received or city sent the check back. We don't know, nothing else.
But the check came back to your bank?
Right, and bank deposited my account. And I received the notice, the green one, so I came over here and pay the bills.
Right.
It would seem to me you should be talking to your bank since it's their check that didn't get to pay your bill. If we start granting late fees, exceptions, there's no end, to how many, what a precedent that sets on everybody else in the town. It's unfortunate, but it's a precedent. how the other council members feel, but to me, it's a precedent we don't want to make. Any other council members have a feeling on this?
I would just agree with you, Council President. If the bank was late in sending it, the bank should be liable to give him his fees back.
Reimburse him that,
I would agree to 100%
that penalty
with that.
fee?
Of $9.91. That's what we're discussing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, did you ask the bank? Did you bring
I
it up
asked the
to your
bank already.
to refund you that money since it was
No,
their fault?
bank, no, we send the check to them, check came back, we deposit to your account back. That's what they say, we cannot give the credit like that, okay?
Yeah, well, unless some member wants to make a motion to waive this,
I have to agree with your first statement. I think if we make a precedent in doing this, and I think it will cause a problem down the line. It's unfortunate that this has happened to you, Mr. Patel, but personally, I don't feel that I'm taking my own position. I don't feel that we should vote on this and give you the $9.91.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I apologize for
No
this happening
problem.
to you. I think your bank, whether they sent it to the wrong location, whatever happened, it was misplaced.
No, ma'am, no, because this is not only last 5 years, I'm paying four
Yes,
water
I
bill,
understand
four water
you
bill
paid, I understand
online,
you paid
and
your
bank
bills
send the
on
same
time,
address. Bank
and
send
you've
the
been a
same
good
address
citizen
somehow
of
in
Parsippany,
between.
but this is something that is unfortunate that has happened, and I'm sorry that this has
No,
have happened.
I understand, but
Apologize.
I'm not in, I requested my bill, pay the bills, right? Bank also paid on time too, but somehow the check wasn't here.
Yeah.
That's what the problem,
We don't
nothing
know.
else.
We don't know, and
Right,
it's our policy in the township that if the taxes are late, if anything is late, the water, the sewer, there is an interest charge, and your interest charge was $9.91 that you were charged. And that's the policy of the township. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, if I may add, I don't know if it's just a policy of the township, and the township attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's in statute with the state as well as the county, if I'm correct.
No, you're correct, and the problem is, this time it's $9.91. Next time, it's $250. Next time,
Right.
it's $500. And I think Mr. Patel said that the check was returned. So his bank is the one that mailed the check. So if the check was returned, obviously the address was deficient, or there was some other issue that would have been the problem of the bank. And, I agree that it's really the bank's responsibility to refund you the $9.91. It would be a different story if the bank had evidence that they sent it to the right place and that we had received it and they had a receipt for it, but that's not what happened here. They actually returned the check. So somebody owes you $9.91, and I think it's your bank, unfortunately. And again, it's not the $9.91, it's the fact that it's a slippery slope, because then the next one's $250.
It's a precedent. We
$500.
don't want to set a precedent. Unfortunate. Anyone else wish to speak?
She's heading for the phone.
My name is Bob Venezzi. I live at 102 Brook Lawn Drive. And I would like to comment on a recent Parsippany-focused article entitled "Tax Appeal, a Settlement Strategy," which was written by the Township Tax Assessor. I assume that each of you has read the article and is familiar with its contents. As I read through the article, several questions came to my mind. None of them are related to the settlement strategy being proposed or the arguments and factual content used to support the tax assessor's point of view. My questions are more along the lines of what effect will a large number of commercial property tax appeals have on the general budget and the tax rate paid by the homeowner? Rather than listing my questions and having you answer them, I will attempt to ask and answer my own questions, and if my answers are not correct, you can correct me at the end. First question was, why did the tax assessor find it necessary to write this article? Clearly, the tax assessor is expecting a large number of tax appeals originating from commercial property owners. And because of the depressed state of the existing commercial real estate market, it's likely that Parsippany is going to lose most of these appeals. If the property owners can be convinced to enter an early settlement agreement, that would lessen the amount of tax revenue loss, as well as attorney's fees. Question 2, how much will the loss in revenues from commercial tax appeals affect the 2022 municipal budget? The administration should be able to estimate this amount with a reasonable degree of accuracy, but the fact that the tax assessor felt the need to write an article in Focus indicates that the effect on Parsippany's tax rate will be significant. Question 3, who is the intended audience of this article? The tax assessor is making a direct appeal to commercial property owners to consider the settlement strategy that he proposes. However, I believe that the article is also intended for the tax-paying residents of Parsippany. Whatever tax revenues are lost because of commercial property tax appeals must be absorbed by the remaining tax-paying residents, and that is mainly homeowners. When this year's tax rate exceeds the 2% cap, the cause will not be a complete surprise to the homeowner. Question 4, would Parsippany have been able to weather the commercial tax appeal storm if $800,000 had not been transferred from the tax assessor's appeal reserve fund to help balance last year's general budget? An extra $800,000 may not have been enough to totally offset the effect of this year's deluge of commercial tax appeals, but it certainly would have helped reduce the final rate by, I estimate, about 1.5%. And the last question is, for how many more future budgets do you expect the scenario of reduced commercial tax revenues to result in increased residential rates? And this one, I don't have any, only you guys can, estimate that one. So if you have any additional information or corrections to any of the above answers, I would like to hear them.
Well, I can take a stab at a couple of them. First of all, the tax assessor negotiates with anyone who files a tax appeal. So we don't give them, our tax assessor, by the way, is very efficient and has done a fantastic job for many, many years.
Yes, I know that.
He negotiates the best deal he can, and he's been very successful in negotiating tax appeals for years and years and years. And if there was money, when there was money taken out by the previous administration last year, it was the amount it was a little more than the amount he felt should be taken out. He does keep a reserve there, because you never know who's going to file a tax appeal and how much. So he does have a reserve there. He had some reserve left, and I have not heard, we haven't started this budget process yet, but I haven't heard that his fund for tax appeals is depleted. I think he is still in good condition. Is that true, Mr. Carr?
Yes, sir.
It's good to hear that.
If I may note for Bob and the council, prior to that reduction of the reserve for tax appeal, there was a discussion with Dan, and he provided written certification for the amount that was reduced by, and he said it was okay. He didn't like it, but he understood.
He felt he could get by.
He could get by. It wasn't just an arbitrary number where we whacked it in, there was a conversation.
Right.
He wrote down, yes, we could do this. Could I get a copy of that, Bob, or you could email it to me? I'm pretty sure you got your.
Okay, I'll
Just email
email it to you.
Make the minutes a lot easier.
I know you like it better emailed.
Well, this way I don't lose it.
Okay, Bob, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, Ken Dolsky, 21 Winfield Drive. Let me first make a comment or two about the two properties that are being transferred to wildlife preserves. I believe those properties are basically in the middle of a swamp, and then when there's rain, water is released that comes down on the north side of 46, goes under Route 46, and goes out into that area, and makes them basically islands. I find it hard to imagine that there's any value. The town owned those properties for many, many, many years, didn't sell it to anybody, but I can't see that anybody's going to buy it. Second, Wildlife Preserve, my understanding, is going to remediate the invasives on those two islands at their own expense. And they're full of Phragmites, and Phragmites raises the ground level because of its root system. It can be extremely dense. And by remediating them, they're going to decrease the ground level and make it easier for that area to absorb floodwater that comes in from, across Route 46, where I live. And so basically, we want them to take this property and remediate it because it's going to improve the likelihood, or lessen the likelihood of flooding in the residential area and improve the probability that all the water that's trying to get through under Route 80 and Route 46 is not going to be obstructed. So it sounds to me like it's very important that we consummate that deal with them.
Thank you for that input.
Yeah, I had a long conversation with Len about it. He explained all the details. I had no idea, what was going to happen. But, and I tried to engage some of my neighbors to support that as well, in the area, who were going to, at risk of flooding.
Of course, now that's on the premise that the state or somebody else keeps that tunnel clear under Route 46.
I don't know who's responsible for that, but yeah, that's an issue.
It's the state, it's the
Could be an issue
DEP,
also.
which they failed to do it. The last time it was done by that apartment complex down there.
The
The developers of
Yeah.
that Huntington Ridge.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I don't know.
It took them 6 months to get permission from the state, from the DEP, to do their job, to do the state's job,
Oh, okay.
and clear that tunnel. That sediment builds up in there, and it's something that somebody should be looking
And
at.
probably some of the reason the sediment builds up is because the water can't get through, because there's, the obstruction of, high, islands of Phragmites that are preventing the water from flowing freely. So it drops its sediment, and so it sounds to me like having them do the remediation and add it to their land bank would help everybody in that area. So let's make sure this happens.
Thank you.
Okay. Second, I'd just like to make a couple of comments about the value of an ERI, and I'll be glad to send this to you in email. But just a couple of thoughts. So first of all, for those of you who don't know, an ERI is not an inventory. It's not just an inventory list. It's a GIS multi-layer map showing the location and potential interactions of multiple natural and man-made elements in an area, ensuring the best planning processes and most professional outcomes from management or development activities. It saves towns money by decreasing the likelihood that a development plan has errors, which causes delay and the cost of rework. It integrates a variety of data from multiple sources to give the most complete description of natural and cultural resources, critical areas, and other environmental features. For example, in the case of stormwater management, a composite map adds the layers for wetlands, vegetation, outfall pipe locations, and stormwater basins, which can be used to identify opportunities to divert stormwater from pipes into managed stormwater wetlands for the biofiltration of nutrients, especially nitrogen, before sending the water into a stream. It provides a detailed natural resource inventory that informs the planning process by providing a factual basis for land use decision-making. It provides the mapping and description of sensitive areas to ensure their proper use and protection. and it can serve in the refinement of zoning regulations and land use ordinances. It also can identify possibilities for regional partnerships and planning activities that can improve environmental conditions and quality of life for many residents across many communities. So we could save money and have more professional outcomes and make better decisions by having a effective and complete ERI. And I'll send this over if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Nicholas Homiak, 2609 Lake Hiawatha. I have to agree with everything that Mr. Dolsky just said. And in reference to environmental resource inventory, recently they did the re-snagging down on the Rockaway. So when I saw that, I heard they must be doing it, right? But birds this time of the year, hatchlings, and particularly bats, which are in danger, if we had an environmental resource inventory, maybe we know if there was bat habitat back there. And did we do it at the proper time? June is when the bat pups are being born, and there's still a lot of hatchlings in the nest. So when they cleaned out all that debris, all they're really doing is, if there is another surge of water, a lot of the plastic that's usually there, and I've cleaned that area up several times, you need an army of men. This stuff's just gonna go further downstream, wind up somewhere in the Whippany-Passaic or in the Troy Meadows, because that's how Parsippany affects Troy Meadows. So I would think another part of environmental inventory would be, how do us humans discipline ourselves in our sanitation? And plastic is becoming a big problem. And a lot of those drains along the highway and all, they all wind up in Troy Meadows. It's all plastic, and I think we could do much better. In my sense, there's no sense of having a sanitation health department if they don't enforce these things. If you're driving a car the wrong way and a cop pulls you over, you're gonna get a ticket. So if you continually have poor sanitation practices, you're not gonna suffer anything except an orange tag. And just for another sense, environmental inventory makes us all aware, I believe, we share this planet wherever we live with other life forms, like the bats, for instance. So, they had these two-cycle blowers and mowers that are going around, and I know the mayor is interested in, we talk about cancer and people getting cancer. Well, a two-cycle push-behind lawnmower in 20 hours of service generates more emissions than an automobile in 1 year. Now, they're thinking about legislation down in Trenton and other states to ban these and go to battery power. Because what you're doing is you're killing nature for an outside carpet, which is like an ecological dead zone. That's what a lawn is, really. It looks nice, but it serves very little ecological value. You're polluting the air and you're disturbing the peace, so it's only a matter of time. And if I find out if this resolution isn't fact true, I have a number, but I have to confirm it. I'd like the council to consider a resolution to support that. And supposedly there'll be funding and everything to help these landscapers convert over the battery power. Still have different subsidies and all. So that's another environmental impact. And I notice we have a road improvement here. It says sidewalk and curb programs. Hopefully the storm drains will be upgraded, because we have a lot of outdated storm drains in this town, especially along the Rockaway River. And if you don't clean the street on a regular basis, and when you look around, I always think people, property, but property seems to be now like a opposite of what community used to be. So, and last and final question, that letter that I gave you, that I emailed you and Councilman Neglia, that wouldn't be considered a correspondence? Like I never got I emailed you with that question about what the attorney mentioned about the Atlantidex, the stormwater. And Parsippany has a poor record in the past of protecting its groundwater. If you look at all the wells we have here and everything, I wonder how much that costs us. So, I was interested in why Mr. Negley wanted to pull it. So are you taking do you know what I'm talking about, don't you? But I never got an answer from anybody. And I thought, if you didn't understand what I was saying, you could say, I don't understand what you're saying. Or if you don't want to say anything to me, just, you ignored me. But I thought it was an important question. Why did you pull that resolution? You said you wanted the council.
Mr. Homniak, you should be directing all questions to the chair,
To you?
to me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't address the letters. I addressed it to the gentleman who pulled the resolution, and because he's,
I understand.
he's on the environmental committee.
I understand. You can make that statement, and you can ask them to respond to you if they so feel appropriate, but you can't grill them. That's not appropriate.
Well, I asked, no, the question was that letter considered a correspondence? I've sent you and other people, things in the past that it's never come up as a correspondent.
Right.
Never, ever. So, I guess I don't rate on the, on the Darwinian chain of citizenship or something. All right, anyway, but get the environmental inventory, and it's a lot more deeper even than Mr. Dolsky says it is. It also involves, like I says, our own humanity and how we treat our community.
Okay.
And next time I have a correspondence, I'm going to address it to you.
Oh, lucky.
All right.
But you did have a question that, didn't we have a program, or somebody proposed a program for a bat population to take some kind of an inventory? I recall something about that. Do you remember? Does anybody out there remember?
Yeah, that happened on Waterview.
Can you come up and refresh my memory on that bat program?
Yeah. Mr. DiPaio, that happened at Waterview. They had to shut Waterview down when they started taking the trees down at the wrong time and put up nets to see whether they can get an Indiana bat. So we don't want to keep on making that mistake.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, under the,
Okay, please come to the microphone and identify yourself. Everything has to be recorded. We record everything here.
All right. Put this down. Good evening.
Good evening.
Laura McCluskey, 136 Lake Shore Drive, Lake Hiawatha. I'm also the chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee. Just to refresh your memory, we have under the Parsippany Green Team, while they were going for certification, for their bronze certification under the Sustainable Jersey program, we created the Parsippany Bat Protection Program. And under that program, we did we're still ongoing, we're doing a lot of educational programs for the town of Parsippany to increase and more protect the bat population, like what Nick was saying, that if we take away some of their habitat without really looking at it, that's important to look at. They control the mosquito population and a lot of insects and things like that, so we figured bat was a very good representative animal for us to focus on. We've done education programs. We're still doing bat walks at the Troy Meadows, and we had Batapalooza, which was our big program, and that was with the Parsippany Library.
The question I have is there any effort to identify where in Parsippany we have bat populations that we should be aware of?
We could do that. We're doing that with Rutgers. Rutgers is bringing in experts into Parsippany, and they were educating our committee on bat populations, endangered bat species, and numbers of bats and where they're located. As a result, we've been putting up bat boxes in some of the parks, and we're planting shagbark hickory trees, which are bat population habitat. So we're gathering data. We probably could do a presentation for the town council if that would be helpful, or?
Well, it would be good to have just a kind of a map or an area that just identifies potential bat.
Okay. Jim Walsh.
Well, I know there are two in my backyard.
Yeah, Jim.
I don't know where they live, but I know at sundown,
Jim Walsh has
they
been
fly
working.
back and forth
Oh, sorry.
through my backyard.
Yeah. Jim Walsh has been working with us in the Parks Department to put up the bat houses and to locate where they're located, so he might be helpful as well. Would you like us to send you our information? Would that be helpful?
I think it would.
Okay.
I think it would. I think we could, in fact, maybe put that on the website. If we have actual bat population locations, we can caution the public about. It might be good to have on our website.
Okay. All right, we'll gather some of that. I'll send it directly to you.
I'll send it to the township clerk, and he can.
Oh, so no, okay, I'll send it directly to you. Okay.
Send it to me, because he doesn't read his email.
Oh, I'll send it directly to Mr. Carr. Right, to you? Okay, all right. And we'll get some of that information. And, certainly general areas like parks, wooded areas, which is what Nick was referring to, and, there'll be some common areas that we've been looking at.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, Pat Simon, 4 Highland Court. So there's this program in New Jersey called the Renewable Energy Aggregation. And it's a program that I believe it was presented last year by the Parsippany Green Team. But it effectively, the council gets to use the collective buying power of our energy bill and find a better supplier that is cheaper and uses more renewable energy. With inflation going so high, I feel like we should really take this more seriously about finding a better rate that we can have for everyone in the town to have better utility rates. So I'm just wondering why this hasn't gone anywhere.
This has been discussed a few times, but the only companies that have come forward to try to sell that to the town is if we put everybody in the town on it, whether they want to or not. And that.
Well, that they can opt out.
Well, they can opt out, but they they put in initially completely. And there were enough residents that felt that was, heavy-handed on us to do that to all of them. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Come to the microphone, so.
Okay, so we're talking, that's true, it was heavy-handed, and that was a different program, and so the program you're talking about, we were going to go out and do a survey and try to get information on people, because it's a different program, so it's the opt-out, the whole thing is different, it's not the same as what happened 10 years ago or whatever, but people will see it that way, so just to answer your question, they're not acting on it. It's just that we're all kind of taking a pause, especially with what's going on with the economy and all sorts of things. We're taking a pause on that aspect of the renewable energy aggregation. So, we do think it's we've been trying to educate people on that in the last couple of years, doing videos and going out as you asked to see if we can get the public to support it. But right now with, like I said, with energy around the world and crisis, it's not a time we're gonna be talking about this. Maybe we'll revisit it in 6 months or so. So we're looking more at things to do in the town with the renewable energy. Wastewater treatment, I know they've been talking about that, solar, but yeah, that whole thing with the RGEA we're kind of taking a pause on that. But I appreciate the support, yeah, because it's something that will help us in the future, but,
Okay,
so,
thank you.
yeah, and not to undermine anything you're saying, it's just that it's just in the last 6 months or so, it's kind of stalled all around.
Okay.
A little bit.
Ken, you have something to add?
Wait, sir, are you done? Are
Yeah,
you
okay.
still going, or?
I'm gonna say.
All I just wanted to say was that, I mean, it sounded like something that, like, if it's an opportunity to save money, why, like, if, I don't know what the concern is, if it's,
The concern is, and I was around the last time, residents don't like to be told that they have to go into a program, and and this is what I got from them. They felt it was like a big brother type of thing. They didn't buy into that I could opt out any time. They didn't buy into that. So I think the only thing that we can do is to educate them further, as Judy said. That's the only other thing, because people don't trust government right now. They don't like the way inflation's going, 8.6%. They just don't have any confidence whatsoever in government, and they don't want the government to step into their lives saying, you have to use these types of programs.
all right, yeah, I guess it needs to be education.
That's
Like,
what
this
I-
government trying to do a good
Like
thing.
the mayor said, like the mayor said, people wanted to be able to opt in and not be forced in and then have to opt out.
Right.
That's what it was. People wanted to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'll go into that program. Instead of you're in and now you gotta go through the problem, the hassle of getting out.
Right. Okay.
I just wanted to clarify something.
Ken, just come to the microphone.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify. The,
Can you take it off just for the moment so we can understand you?
yeah, this is now, this program is under statute. I mean, the BPU created, procedures and policies for this kind of program, and I believe it was encoded in a statute as to how this program should operate everywhere in New Jersey. It's all the same. By law, it can only be an opt-out program. There's no discretion on anybody's part to make it, only opt-in. Because frankly, when they made it an opt-in program, it didn't work. People had to go out and get signatures and knock on every single door. It just couldn't work. It was infeasible. No way that it can operate successfully that way. So it's a law. That's the way the program has to work.
And it's not gonna work.
And it has to be, Mayor is exactly right, needs education. But I just wanted to clarify, it wasn't like, we wanted it this way, or we chose this way. That's the only way it can be done.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one come forward?
Make a motion?
Second?
A motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay. Mr. Nagley, it's up to you.
Ordinance
2022.
2022, Senate Code 16, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Morris County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 225 Land Use Subdivision and Site Plan, Article XV1, Stormwater Management Controls of the Township Code. Be it resolved that the ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on June 14, 2022, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on July 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Prevailing time or as soon after as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given the opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
And Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, before we start the non-consent agenda,
What about the other two?
That's why I didn't.
we're not gonna do that now.
We're not gonna do 15? Okay.
We're not supposed to do 2208.
No. What about 2215? cannabis.
No, there's nothing. What are you saying?
And about the two ordinances for the intro of the fees?
Well,
and the
before I
other-
was interrupted, I was going to do that.
Okay.
No, we don't have.
We're going to move
I just read 2216.
to the non-consent agenda.
There you go.
Item number 14, that'll be R 2022-086. And item number 15, 2022-087 will be the new numbers. And we'll put them on the sequence at the end of our non-consent agenda. Paul, you're gonna do 086, and Justin, you're gonna do 087.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll move to the non-consent agenda. Mrs. Grignani.
Okay.
R 2022-082, approving fireworks display for Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills annual 4th of July celebration. Motion to approve the resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution R 2022-083, authorizing an application for certain grant funds to acquire lands for recreation and conservation purposes. Motion to approve the resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll
For
call.
everybody's information, that's the Cosett property, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
R 2022-084, execution of an agreement for fireworks display services. Motion to approve above resolution made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Resolution R 2022-085, adoption and accessory apartment program policies and procedures manual and authorizing community grants, planning, and housing LLC to administer the program. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2022-086, urging the swift passage of S-330, which restores energy tax receipts. Motion made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani. Mr.
Yes.
Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2022-087, opposing A-1294, S2103, and urging that such legislation not advance further. Motion to approve the resolution made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi.
No, that was...
Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Loretta?
Approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Juan Uribe recommends authorization for payment. 1. Authorize payment of the 6/10/22 regular payroll estimated at $1,600,000. 2. Payroll bills from voucher list of 6/1/22 through 6/3/22, estimate totaling $1,864,558.55. Motion by myself.
Second.
Who was the second? That was you. Okay. Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the ultimate motion?
Motion to adjourn.
We're not gonna get a second on that one?
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Have a good night, everyone.
Mike, on both of these pages, we have